Hey everyone!
Hola a todos!
This is Jahaira.
And this is Stephanie, and welcome to Cuento Crimen podcast.
Y aquí on the Cuento Crimen podcast, we are a true crime podcast and we bring a new case every Wednesday.
Cada miércoles.
And these are cases that don't get much media attention, so chances are you haven't heard of some of these cases.
And we cover these cases in Spanglish.
Así que agarra a tu abuelita, tu abuelito, tu mamá, tu papá, a quien tú gustes, and come join us every Wednesday for a new true crime case. This case, it was hard to start the first time, and it's still hard to start the second time that we're re-recording. But I believe we started with Lauren's birthday, cuando ella vino to Earth. Entonces, ella nació el 12 de abril del año 1993.
And her mother, Barbara, actually had made the decision to give her up for adoption. Ella ya tenía la familia escogida, and everything was super planned out. I mean, this is a really big choice, right?
Yeah. For anyone.
For anyone, I can't imagine being pregnant and then also like making that big choice of like giving your child into adoption. Like, I think there's just so much
to it
in your head like that's going on, you know?
Pero sí, como dijo Stephanie, like Barbara had made her choice and she had picked the Kavanaugh family, and their names were Sabrina and Bill. And they were both super excited to welcome Lauren. They were actually always very involved with Barbara's pregnancy. Like, desde el momento que ella los eligió a ellos, they were there. They were present the whole time. Y estaban allí también cuando Lauren nació inside the delivery room.
I think that's super sweet because this is like a special situation, right? When there's a couple, you know, adopting a child. And I think it's super sweet how they include them. And they were there in the delivery room. And I think I've seen on social media how like even like they include the couple who is adopting in like the pregnancy pictures and photo shoots, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so sweet, because it's part of the process. It's like their
it's
own normal.
Like the actual family tree too. Yeah, it's normalizing the fact that I love that.
And so Sabrina described the day that Lauren was born as the happiest day of their lives.
And so everything went smooth. You know, Lauren was born and she went into Sabrina and Bill's custody. But when she turned 8 months old, Barbara actually filed a petition for custody again.
El proceso fue un poco despacio. Al principio, el juez nomás dejaba a Barbara y su esposo Kenneth Atkinson, que pasaron un tiempo con Lauren. And so Lauren was still living with her adoptive parents, Sabrina and Bill. I think at this point they were kind of like sharing custody.
Like, I think it was kind of like Barbara venía por ella, la sacaba a salir, spend some time with her, and then bring her back to Sabrina and Bill. But right off the bat, when this started happening, there were red flags. Sabrina dice que ella siempre pensó que Barbara y Kenneth abusaban de Lauren. And the reason is because a few times when changing Lauren's diaper, Sabrina notaba algo en su pañal and around her private parts. I think there was some redness and some swelling. So she took that as, you know, something was wrong.
And so Sabrina, being, you know, the mother, takes Lauren to the hospital, and she shares concern with the doctors, and she's asking for them to do a rape kit on Lauren. But the doctors in the hospital, they weren't really up for it, and so they just didn't want to do it, and they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't want to go through it. And like maybe they were not willing to do it like to protect Lauren from going through the whole rape kit, you know? But at the same time, like, look at what she actually ended up going through because they didn't take that step. And it gets worse porque Sabrina didn't stop just there. Like, también fue a un juez and she had 45 pictures. So no una, no dos, pero 45 fotos que ella le había tomado a Lauren. And, you know, this was kind of like her evidence to show the judge that there was something there, that, you know, sus preocupaciones weren't just made up. But the judge tells her, and we quote, "You're doing more harm to this baby with all those pictures than the mother is ever going to do," end quote. And this statement turned out to be very, very wrong.
It just breaks my heart because, like, we know the full story now. And it makes us, like, even angrier because all of this could have been prevented if someone would have listened to Sabrina. Like, those are real concerns. If they're not real, like, it's just good to check.
Because they're big accusations,
Entonces, en el año 1995, Judge Lynn E. Markham awarded Barbara and Kenneth permanent custody of Lauren.
Y ahí es cuando le cambia la vida a Lauren and her nightmare begins.
And so Lauren moves back with her biological mother, Barbara, and her now stepdad, Kenneth. And that's when the abuse begins. So Barbara empezó primero with sleeping Lauren next to her on the floor on a pallet. Pero después Lauren se levantaba and she would just go to the next room or just carry on. Y entonces Barbara empezó a encerrar a Lauren en un closet.
And we're also not too sure like how fast this treatment began. You know, was it like right off the bat when Lauren first moved in? Was it maybe a year? But we're guessing that it happened right away because, you know, Sabrina already had concerns and it was just, it's too much. Mm-hmm. But as the years progressed, like things got worse. Al principio, Barbara todavía llevaba a Lauren, you know, con ella como a fiestas familiares, a eventos, or, you know, just together as a family. Like Lauren was still with her other siblings.
But even though Lauren was included and being part of the family, she was being abused. And Doris, the grandma, que es la mamá de Barbara, dice que ella sí recuerda que Lauren siempre andaba viendo, you know, qué podía comer. Like, she was just always, like, hungry and always wanted to eat.
Mm-hmm. Like, she had an appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Y dice que ella le preguntaba a Barbara if Lauren was okay, pero que Barbara nomás le decía que Lauren was dealing with an eating disorder.
After Thanksgiving 1999, cuando Lauren tenía 6 años, Doris ya nunca la volvió a ver. And again, ella dice que Barbara would just make excuses as to why Lauren wasn't around. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's with a friend and things like that.
Like, the thing is, like, you're going to be at a friend's house during holidays. Like, imagine, like, you're just spending every single Thanksgiving with a friend, mm-hmm. even though you're underage. Like, and you're not even a teenager, you know, because I get teenagers might want to, like, go off on their own. But, like, she was young. Ella que sabía. And I don't know, I feel like it's just, how do you not question that, you know, maybe something is up? Like, mm-hmm. maybe something's wrong.
And this is, like, during the time where, like, it's also, like, winter break.
Yeah.
And so they should be home all day kind of thing, right? So, yeah, it's suspicious. But again, like, how is Doris really going to think that there's something evil behind it, you know? Like, I doubt she would think that her daughter, Barbara, was capable of doing
such things.
Like evil things, you know?
That's true. That makes sense. And like while all of this is happening, you know, ya que Lauren stops coming around, she was actually being locked in her mother's closet and she was in there and she was starving. She was covered in her feces and it was just horrible.
Lauren only ate whatever her sister could sneak in, which was usually just cold soup, maybe some crackers and tubs of butter and things like that. Pero nunca era like a full plate of meal.
Yeah, she never had a full meal.
Yeah.
It was just things here and there. Y cuando sí la sacaban del closet, era para algo peor. She would only get taken out of the closet to be sexually abused by her mother, Barbara, and Kenneth, her stepfather. Her sister, Blake, dice que ella recuerda hearing Lauren screaming from inside the bedroom, pero que ella pensaba que maybe they were just hitting her.
I think that's so horrible que obviously like the fact that Barbara and the own mother, right, and Kenneth, the stepfather, are abusing her, and to have other kids in the house hear those screams, like that's trauma for everyone.
Yeah. And then also just like, I mean, Blake, right? Like she was a child. ¿Cómo se imaginar lo que estaba pasando behind that door? But like now growing up and like learning about it, can you imagine? Like,
yeah, like to feel like that, like why didn't I do anything, right?
But it's like she didn't
She's
know.
a kid too. Like what could she do, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't know, like reading these details, honestly, it just makes my stomach hurt. And it's just really hard to learn about it. And then we kept reading more, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So Barbara and Kenneth would actually rent out Lauren to pedophiles.
No tengo palabras. Like,
yeah.
What? Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Y eso, like,
a child. Yeah.
You're her mother. You're supposed to protect her. And here you are. It's horrible. Y dicen que la razón por qué supieron about this fact fue porque Lauren, ya que fue rescatada, siempre que se encontraba con un payaso, ella gritaba. Because uno de los hombres con quien la llevaba se vestía de un payaso and he would make her call her Candyman.
It's disturbing. Like, I honestly, like,
stuff.
Yeah, this is a hard case to get through.
Yeah.
And as we kept reading more, también leímos que las pocas veces que Barbara bañaba a Lauren, ella le sostenía su cabeza debajo del grifo abierto hasta que Lauren ya no podía respirar. And she would do this while laughing the entire time.
It was a game for her.
Yeah.
It's like a horrible, pure evil game. Because there is like no reason as to why you want to do that to a kid. Holding their face underneath a running faucet, that's just mean. And so we did read también, and we mentioned it, que Lauren casi no comía, right? Like, from time to time, her sister would just sneak in the food. Pero en veces, Barbara le hacía mac and cheese. And she would let Lauren chew it, but not swallow it.
Again, like, no puedo creer que alguien tenga tanta maldad, right? Like, how are you capable of doing this?
And to a child.
Yeah, I just, it's crazy.
And so, yeah, después de todo, like, when they talk to Barbara and they are questioning her and they're trying to understand, like, why would you do this? She never really gave a full reason de por qué a Lauren.
Barbara y Kenneth tenían 5 hijos, and we did read that the other children were abused, but it wasn't nothing compared to what Lauren was going through. Y entonces cuando le preguntaron a Barbara que por qué, why Lauren, why was she the one getting the most abused, right? And she was pretty blunt. Ella dijo que ella nunca quería a Lauren, and she even told Protective Services, and I quote, "I never loved Lauren. I never wanted her. When my other kids hurt, I hurt. When Lauren hurt, I felt nothing." End quote.
I mean, maybe that is her reason, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it seems like I get it. Like, sometimes, unwanted pregnancies come a long way, right?
Yeah.
And we can't. Only Barbara knows what she felt.
Yeah.
Pero mi única pregunta es de que she had made a plan, to give Lauren a loving family, one that she couldn't be for her. Entonces, ¿por qué fue y la buscó otra vez?
Right. Why go through that trouble of, like, getting custody back and being in front of a judge and all these things? Like, what was the point of that?
If you never loved her.
So it makes us think that obviously this is premeditated, right? Because it went on for years and years.
Yeah, and it's also just like, I don't know, I feel like the fact that, como dices tú, she went through the whole trouble of, like, getting her back. So it's like, I feel like she thought about it. Like, she didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, I want her back. And then she started treating her bad. Like,
And también, like, this case reminds me a lot about the Gabriel Fernandez case because it's kind of similar because there were other kids in the household and only Gabriel was being abused to that extent, And in this case as well, Lauren has siblings, but she is the one that's being abused the most. So it's just, I don't know why. There could be lots of reasons, and I can, like, I'm thinking of a few, but still, it's like pure evil.
Yeah, it's hard to understand, but, like, yeah, like, I'm sure it has something to do with, like, the mental state of the person or maybe an unwanted child, right? Hay muchas cosas que pueden afectar esto. Pero lo bueno fue que Lauren, sin embargo de todo lo que pasó, sobrevivió esta pesadilla. Lauren fue rescatada el 11 de junio del 2001.
So apparently Kenneth fue la persona que le dijo a una vecina de lo que estaba pasando con Lauren. Él le dijo a su vecina Jeannie Riveras que él le tenía que enseñar algo. And so they go along to see what's up, right? And Kenneth le enseña a Jeannie un closet. And so he opens up the closet and there is Lauren.
Can you imagine what his neighbor must have felt?
Yeah.
Like when you open the door, like, and you just see this poor girl on the floor. I don't know. Like, the good thing was that Jeannie did call the cops, of course. And that's when everything starts to, unfold. And the thing is, we don't really know por qué Kenneth hizo esto. Like, did he really truly have a change of heart? Or did he do it for some type of revenge towards Barbara? Porque as we were reading, nos enteramos que Barbara lo estaba engañando. And, eventually Kenneth finds out. So, like, was this kind of like a payback for her? Or did he just truly feel bad for what he was doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. We don't know, right? But honestly, it could be either or honestly, possibly just getting payback, you know? Porque él era cómplice. Él también was taking advantage of this little girl. But for whatever reason, he spoke up and, we're glad that he did for whatever reason it was, right? Y como dijo Yajaira, el 11 de junio, Lauren fue rescatada a los 8 años.
And y'all, just for reference, Lauren fue regresada a su mamá en el año 1995, and she was born in 1993. So she was about 2 years old when she was returned to Barbara and Kenneth. Y ella tenía 8 años cuando la encontraron. So she was living this nightmare for about 6 years.
Too many years. And when the police came to their house after the neighbor called, they sure enough found a little girl in the closet. And actually the investigator dice que he didn't even know that Lauren was 8 years old because when they opened up the closet, Lauren was the size of a toddler.
Yeah, I think he was saying how he was like confused. Like he just kept looking at Lauren, but he was like, there's no way that this girl is 8. Porque Lauren weighed just 25.6 pounds, which is the average weight of a 2-year-old. That means that Lauren was an 8-year-old the size of a 2-year-old.
That's insane.
Así como se la regresaron a Barbara, she never grew from that.
Yeah. And so Lauren was taken to the hospital y ahí estuvo por 5 semanas. And, you know, they looked at her. They did all these like exams and physicals on her, and they found bruises all over her body and even cigarette burns as well.
She did not deserve all of that. They also say that she kept complaining about the bugs in her hair. So it was a lot. It was a lot for her. And so her esophagus was clogged with plastic. She had carpet fibers in there and feces, and her genitals were so mutilated from the years of sexual abuse.
I'm crazy, like speechless. Huh? Yeah. It's a lot. And 8 years old, you know, and to live that much abuse, it's insane. Torture. Yeah, like some people don't deserve to be called parents. And it's just crazy because like she's so small, like because she was locked in a closet during her most important developmental years. Lauren's brain had atrophied and many believed she wouldn't be able to live a normal life.
Y cuando la historia de Lauren salió al público, Sabrina and Bill, her original adopted parents, escucharon de lo que le había pasado a Lauren, and they actually decided to adopt her again. And so they started the whole process, y después de 13 meses, por fin pudieron adoptar a su hija Lauren.
I think that's so nice and like sweet because like they were there in the beginning, like they wanted to be parents, and unfortunately Lauren was taken away from them. And we didn't even talk about that, like what they must have felt.
Honestly, you're right. Yeah.
They were so excited to be parents, and you know, obviously adopting takes a long time, and like you have to meet all these requirements. And the fact that they met, you know, all these requirements and they got a baby, and then for them to have the baby be ripped out of their hands and to later find out that
everything they went through.
Yeah. So I just think it's amazing that they were willing to take her in and help her through her long recovery, help her go through that lifetime of trauma that she has.
That just means that their heart was really in it.
Yeah, I think like Sabrina and Bill were really there for her and trying to teach her a bunch of things, right? Like porque Lauren no sabía cómo usar una cuchara o tenedor, and she wasn't potty trained, and she was just constantly paranoid, thinking someone was going to take her.
I mean, imagine I mean, I would be paranoid too. And aside from, you know, the paranoia, it's also like just a trauma and like realizing how different life is, and how like the life that the only life that she knew isn't the only life that's out there.
Yeah.
Y la verdad que yo sí me quedo admirada because, you know, Lauren broke the odds. She was able to survive all that horrible abuse and, you know, go back to her loving adoptive parents, and is now dealing with the beautiful side of life. And, you know, now despite dealing with mental health issues, she is living a normal life. But, you know, along with that, like Lauren did go through a lot. And como dijo Stephanie, like she did lose out on like the most important years of a child's development. Entonces como que todavía está aprendiendo what's socially acceptable, what can she do and what can't she do. And when we were researching the case, this fact popped up, but we decided not to spend, I guess, too much time talking about it, right? Discussing it, because como dijiste Steph in el primer episodio, like it's going to shift the story.
Yeah.
So we wanted to just focus on Lauren's story and what she went through. But we did read that in 2018, Lauren was facing some pretty big accusations. Someone accused her of sexual assault. Pero when she went to court, she was ruled as unfit to stand trial.
Yeah, so we didn't do a deep dive into this topic, but we do know that all charges were dropped.
And as far as Barbara and Kenneth, of course they were found guilty. Like, how could they not? And they are now still currently serving time.
What they did was horrible and unhumane, and I'm just glad that they are now serving time. Como siempre, estos casos nos dejan con el corazón muy dolido and heavy. And so we do want to end it with a quote that Lauren said. And I quote, "I don't want to be like my parents. That's my focus. I have that fear of turning out like them because every day I feel it. I have that rage inside like my mother. The only difference is I'm trying to control it." End quote.
I feel like that's a very powerful like quote to say. And I didn't even think about that, like how she probably is also processing the fact that her mother was capable of this, you know, and I feel like that is enough to kind of mess with your head, like, well, do I have that inside me too?
It's like she's being self-aware at the same time because she's like recognizing all these like feelings that she has, but she is
regulating
controlling them, you know?
Yeah. And that's like one thing about feelings, and like learning education is one thing that we always hear. It's like, there's no such thing as bad emotions. It's just like, how do you control those emotions? And so we do wish, you know, Lauren the best. And we're so glad that she's now living the life that she deserves. And yeah, that was it for this week's case. We hope you all enjoyed the episode. I know it was a very hefty one. So just make sure, I don't know, just stand up, go look at the sky or something to, you know, kind of
refresh.
Yeah. And yeah, we will see you all next week.